My name is Dr. Matt Tidmarsh and I'm a lecturer in criminology at the University of Hertfordshire. I completed my PhD in November 2019 on staff experiences of the transforming rehabilitation reforms to probation services, and it was based on 6 months spent in a probation office led by a privately owned CRC, observing practice and interviewing staff. More specifically, the research explored probation staff understandings of professionalism. In other words, I looked at the different aspects of probation's culture, identity, and practices which make the service what it is, such as training, education, and knowledge, autonomy over work, and a client-centered ideology of service. I've published widely on these different but interconnected elements of professionalism in the last 2 years, but the main finding of my research was that TR brought many of probation's underlying problems to the surface, accelerating a process of deprofessionalisation that began several decades ago, which has witnessed a loss of autonomy over work, detachment from its social work roots, and attempts to impose a more punitive culture on the service. For these reasons, the reunification of probation is welcome and should provide opportunities for growth, but also challenges. What challenges do I see for probation? Well, I think the reunification itself poses several challenges for the service and its staff. First, probation must deal with yet more organisational restructuring. Many staff who had to adapt to working life in a private, for-profit organisation will now find themselves having to adapt to the civil service. This poses challenges in terms of whether the service and its staff can recapture probation values and a measure of autonomy whilst housed within a sprawling government bureaucracy. A further shifting of geographic boundaries also presents a challenge in terms of maintaining relationships with other criminal justice agencies and establishing new ones. Much research on TR, including my own, also documented the emergence of an us and them culture between staff allocated to the CRCs and those in the MPS in many regions of England and Wales. This contributed, in the words of the Probation Inspectorate, to a two-tier and fragmented service in which practice was perceived to be inferior in the CRCs, not only by the MPS but also by other criminal justice agencies such as the police and the courts. While the overwhelming majority of probation staff support reunification, these organisational tensions between probation staff are not likely to dissipate overnight. Finally, the current political climate poses significant challenges for probation. The last few years have witnessed an intensification of punitive rhetoric from the government, with police powers expanded and the prison population projected to rise. It seems to me as if the service is at a crossroads between the punitive urges of the government on the one hand and efforts to recapture and rebuild probation's legitimacy as a service capable of rehabilitating its clients and protecting the public on the other. Here there is potential for increased caseloads and a lack of faith in the service from the government to undermine elements of reunification, all the while leaving the door open for further privatisation of services through the dynamic framework. What opportunities does reunification present? I see huge opportunities for the sector when probation is reunified, such as the opportunity to reprofessionalise the service. It is especially pleasing to see plans for the development of a professional register for probation professionals, which will recognise probation as a professional vocation and bring the service into line with other, more established professions, like medicine. This should hopefully help to attract and retain people, including former service users, into the probation service and to train them to meet the challenges that many clients face. As part of the reprofessionalisation agenda, I see tremendous opportunity to re-articulate and restate the values that research has consistently shown to ground probation culture, like a non-judgmental attitude towards offending behaviour and a belief in the capacity of an individual to change. A further opportunity that can arise from clear articulation of probation values is that they can potentially act as a great unifier, the common ground between staff migrating from the private sector and those remaining in the MPS, as a reminder that people are united by a common purpose, to help people desist from crime. I also think that reunification provides an opportunity to build on the best of TR, such as the growing use of community hubs to co-locate services. If I could see one thing achieved, it would be a properly resourced, publicly funded probation service. Here, it's important to emphasise that I mean properly resourced in terms of both the funding available to staff and the time, training and freedoms available to its staff to make a difference in the lives of individuals. It's clear that the service, having been underfunded and undervalued for well over a decade, needs financial investment. I would like to see some of this money go towards modernising the probation estate, contributing to probation offices that are more welcoming environments rather than cold, impersonal office blocks, and that the staff have the technologies to succeed. It is pleasing that the money is being invested in staff through commitments to expand, simplify and diversify recruitment processes, along with commitments to upskilling. This programme of recruitment should also help to ease caseload pressures, giving staff more time to get to know their clients and to build and maintain relationships. Finally, proper resourcing entails organisational change, giving staff the freedom to deploy their skills, knowledge, expertise and values to aid people as they try to desist from crime.